Despite some recent nerfs, Lycan is still one of the strongest heroes in the game, and in this video we're going to look at the game of no one playing Lycan in the mid lane in a pretty unfavorable matchup against Kunkka, but we're going to see how he still manages to come out on top and carry this game.
Lessons that cannot be unlearned.
Welcome to the Church of Obelisk. So right away at the start you can see him placing his wolves here and here to see if there's wards here that if the tower shoots at the wolf, then there's probably a ward nearby, and he sees that there's no wards here, so that's always something you can do. You can do this with any hero of course, but if you don't have any summons you have to risk your own hero, and someone might lie in wait here and try to intercept you when you do this with your main hero. But with the wolves you can do it for free, and then he's just going to resummon the wolves afterwards, and he's going to go and block his wave. In terms of starting items, he went for the Quelling Blade, a couple of Iron Branches and Fairy Fire just for some extra last hit damage, and then he's starting immediately on the Sage's Mask, which is an item for his Necro Book, which is an item he's going to be rushing in this game. Now often you'll see Lycans instead go for Helm of Dominator as first item and then get Necro Book afterwards, but here in this game he's going for the Necro first. So why skip Dominator in this game? Well, he's playing against an Enchantress, and Enchantress can no longer take over Necro units, but she can take over your Dominator creeps, and these creeps then get a whole bunch of extra damage and HP on top of the already good stats that Dominated units get. So this Dominator is a bit problematic against Enchantress. She has a spell on a 20-second cooldown. She can always just take over your creep, and you can then take it back, but then it's going to have a timed life, and 20 seconds later she's going to be able to take it back again. So that's a bit of a hassle, so that's an argument just in favor of skipping Dominator entirely. Also, even in games where there's no direct counter, you sometimes see Lycans skip Dominator, just because the timing on Necro is so important, and Dominator and Necro are both kind of items that you want to get as soon as possible. So by getting Dominator first, you're delaying your Necro, and that can be a bit detrimental. Sometimes you see, even in games that are good for Dominator, you see Lycan skipping that item. But personally I'd usually go for Dominator first, and because I'm a big fan of that item. It's my favorite item in the game, but here in this game I think it makes sense to skip the Dominator. So you can see Lycan is already here in the jungle, and this is basically the way you have to play this lane. So these wolves, they have pretty low HP, but they make up for that by having high magic resistance, 70% magic resist. But as Kunkka, of course, you have all that physical damage with Tidebringer, so it's very difficult to actually use your wolves in this lane. So you can take one Tidebringer, that's fine, but as soon as you get a second one in, the wolf's gonna die, and these wolves, they feed a decent amount of golden experience. It's not terrible to lose them, it's not a lot of golden experience, but you don't want to feed this unnecessarily. So he's going to go in here, he's going to take one Tidebringer, and then it's just going to move them back and not feed them. So throughout the laning stage he's just going to alternate between pushing out this wave here when he gets into this tower, or it's somewhere here where it's fairly safe, and then he's going to hit primarily this camp here, but you can also go to this camp or even farther inland into the triangle. So even though he's had to resort to jungling so early, he's actually still keeping up the farm with this Kunkka and getting about as much as he is out of that lane. He's just been farming passively here, but now Enchantress comes into the mid lane, try to contest the rune. She also has a wolf here which gets murdered by his brothers. So Enchantress gets the rune, and he's going to try to do some sort of aggressive play here. He can take over one of these wolves, but honestly it's not the biggest deal. So Lycan loses one wolf, but he can easily escape here. Clockwork also comes in here to do some brawling, but nothing much happens really. And this Lycan, you don't want to fight this. You can't kill this Enchantress. So you might as well just go back to farming, and he's gonna now just farm a little bit farther away, and then after this camp he can go back to the mid. He's level 6 now, which is a big power spike, but it's even better to combine that power spike with your first big item. So usually that's either the Necro here in this case, or the Dominator, and then if you have both of these online, you can usually get a kill. So that's what it's going to try to do. So it's just going to farm a little bit more to get those 50 gold, and then you want to look for a fight. And I've said this in every Lycan video I've made so far, but it's so important that I'm going to say it again. Generally the game plan for Lycan is very static, very predictable. When your ultimate is up, you want to look for a fight. Then if you win the fight, you take an objective if possible, and then either way afterwards you go back to farming until ultimate is back up again. And you just repeat that over and over again. This is how you play Lycan. So now he has his ultimate, he has the Necronomicon, he's going to run in here and go for that Zeus. Zeus is the easiest, juiciest target. And he's not overcommitting though. He doesn't want to die, and just because you're super fast doesn't mean you're super strong. The ultimate also gives you crit, which is some extra damage, but it's not that big of a deal. You know, it doesn't boost the DPS by that much. So it's very important to not overestimate your strength. It's primarily a vehicle to be able to actually deliver the damage you have. It doesn't really make you much stronger at straight up fighting. That's something I always keep in mind when using Shapeshift. So he got the one kill and then he went out again, didn't die, that's important. And now he's just back to farming and waiting for his ultimate to be up again. He sees an ancient stack here and it's time to stack, but he doesn't actually want to stack here. You can't farm a triple stack of ancients at this stage of the game. So instead he's just going to stack the regular large camp and he's going to farm that. That's a fairly easy thing to farm here with those wolves. He's going to take some damage here, but it's not too bad. And then he can farm this ancient stack once he actually has his Necro up again. Because this stack, this double stack here is very much farmable with the Necro units, but without them it's too strong, especially with those powder camps in there. So the ultimate is about to come up again, so now he's once again looking for a fight. He has Necro available, he has ultimate in 3 seconds, and so they're going to go onto this Enchantress. Transforms its ultimate form and it's going to run her down, and then they want to look for something more. Unfortunately his Enigma died as well, so it's not the greatest trade, and both these heroes are not really killable, 1 versus 2, so he just runs out again. So this fight was not very successful, but at least he forced those cores to be there. So at least he created some space here, but of course ideally you would want the fight to go better than that. And now with his Necro units up he can do the stack, and you can see he's taking some damage from those units, so microing away the low HP units, which is important to keep up your DPS here. Also taking some damage on this hero, but that's okay, you have a lot of HP regen. So he takes that camp, and now the tower is being pushed here, and this Void Spirit is coming far forward. So for a moment the Lycan thought about maybe turning the fight, but without the ultimate it's very difficult to actually help out in fights. So it's just going to go back to farming now. So if you look at high level MMR games, you can see that Lycan is one of the strongest heroes in the game right now. So data from Dota 2 Pro Tracker, which is pro level pub games, shows that he's third in terms of win rate, but those top 2 heroes, Lone Druid and Visage, have a lot fewer games played. They only have about 100 games each, so these numbers for these 2 heroes are not nearly as reliable. But there's 600 games on Lycan here, so you can take those numbers with a lot more confidence. And so why is Lycan so strong right now, even though he's been nerfed in the last couple of patches? Well, one thing that really helps him out is the changes in 7.26 that removed all these incidental benefits from attributes, so that strength no longer gives magic resistance, agility no longer gives movement speed, and int no longer gives spell damage. This, first of all, makes all sorts of summon heroes and heroes that rely on creeps stronger. So that's also why you see all these sort of micro heroes, all these heroes that rely on these summons at the top of the list here. But and for Lycan specifically, it's even better because Lycan is a hero that has very low agi gain. His agi is one of the lowest in the game, so losing that movement speed doesn't hurt him. Also during his ultimate, he's hasted anyway, or more than hasted. He has 650 movement speed anyway, so losing that movement speed and agility is irrelevant. Lycan doesn't deal spell damage, so losing the amplification on that, on int, is irrelevant for him. The only thing that hurts him a little bit is the magic resistance, but it's just not the biggest deal because Lycan just relies so much on his summons. And obviously if all the heroes get weaker, that means that summons in relative terms become stronger. So 726 really helped out Lycan, and of course he was already quite strong before that patch. The one disadvantage that Lycan has is that his laning stage can be a bit weak, but with the recent changes, laning stage becomes a bit less important because denies are no longer as punishing. But at the same time, mid-game fighting is still incredibly important in the game to be able to secure those runes and outposts. So a hero that's really strong in the mid-game like Lycan can really succeed in the game, and it has that's why he has such a high win rate, because he can just force those fights in the mid-game with all these efficient items like a Necronomicon and his Dominator and the other kinds of items that Lycan likes to buy. If you combine all these factors, you just get a hero that is incredibly strong and does well even in games where he's countered. He doesn't do well though if he just farms recklessly in the middle while it's being ganked, so losing two heroes there is not the best obviously. But if you look at the overall shape of the game, Lycan is still doing fine, even though his team is a bit behind at this stage of the game, because the enemy lineup is also quite strong in the early mid game. So you just died somewhat stupidly. What's your next move? Well, your ultimate is up, so the next move is to go look for a fight. But of course, you don't just want to like blindly rush in. You still want to farm, of course, but generally now the goal is going to be to look for a fight, and we have Enigma already sort of jungling aggressively here, so Lycan is going to come and back him up as Enigma is being engaged. Lycan runs in there and tries to save his body, and Kunkka really sees the score and tries to escape, but he gets killed here. He dies now, and more initiation here onto Slag. Slag is going to try to escape here, but it's a bit difficult. He has a pounce available in a second, but it's too late. So two very important kills here, and now after you win the fight, you go take an objective. And here of course is your obvious objective. This tower is right here, there's a catapult wave, so obviously you try to go for that tower. And with the tower gone, it's back to farming. Just going to farm with his creeps for a little bit and keep his hero out of vision range here, but not actually venturing into vision range, which is a bit reckless. And he also just stayed with the creeps too long here. So pushing that first wave was fine, but then going further with the creeps, a bit of an overextension. Losing those creeps is not the biggest deal. Nowadays these necro units don't give that much golden XP as they used to. It's only 150 golden XP, that's not that bad. But still, you don't want to give away any free gold if you can help it. So after completing the Necro 3, Lycan went for boots, and it's kind of a bit of a philosophical question of when exactly you want to buy boots on Lycan, or if at all, because your ultimate gives you 650 movement speed anyway, so during your ultimate boots are irrelevant, but boots can help out for your farming when your ultimate is down. So I think it's quite a good timing to get it after the Necro 3. Necro 3 timing is really important, and after that, that's a bit of slack in your build. You can easily afford those 500 gold for the boots. And then after the boots, he's now going for an AC. And as we speak here, he's being engaged by Slag. But it was a bit of a bait. Enigma is able to get off a Black Hole, which unfortunately was cancelled right away. So these kinds of fights, you generally want to go for the most vulnerable targets, and Slag is of course a very high mobility hero, so you usually don't want to go for a Slag, but you have all these heroes nearby that have all this catch, you can definitely go for a Slag. So now with the Slag down, they can try to push into high ground a little bit, but it's a bit difficult. Going high ground is always a bit dicey on Lycan, because like all you can do pretty much is like go up there and hit the buildings, but with the Kunkka pushing out the waves, that's not really going to happen. So they just have to settle for the easy objective, the tier 1 tower here, but they don't even get that one. So no one decided to go for the AC right away after Necro, which is definitely a viable choice, but oftentimes you want to go for an extra item or two before AC. You definitely want AC, the question is just when. And the timing after Necro is kind of very important for Lycan. That's sort of the strongest point in the game for you. So oftentimes it's good to just extend that strength by buying a cheaper follow-up item. A good option would be Dominator. Even if you're not rushing with Dominator, Dominator is so strong in Lycan that you still just get it later. Or you can also go for something like Drum. Drum gives you a nice attack speed aura, which is great for your minions, as well as just for the rest of your team. You can also go for something like a Vlad if you're lacking sustain. Or you can go for something like a Pipe to help out against magic damage. But in this game, he's going for the AC first, and then afterwards he's going for the Pipe. I'm not entirely sold on that. Maybe we're better to go for the opposite order. First get the Pipe and then the AC. But this is what he's going with here. And another nice fight here. Slag trying to hide here, but there's just so much strength coming out of this lineup here, and they still have Enigma Black Hole available with a Blink Dagger as well. So he doesn't want to commit here too deeply here, just sending his minions in. It's very important that you get out in time. You don't want to find yourself in the middle of the enemy team and suddenly notice that your shapeshift is running out. So definitely keep a keen eye on that timer, and unless the fight is going really well, you're going to pull out, at least with the main hero, like 3-4 seconds before your ultimate runs out, so that you're actually safely away when you're back to crawling. Radiant team are pushing, even though Slag has Aegis. They're just so strong in this timing with Lycan, with this AC and this Necro 3. Still really strong, and they almost have the Pipe. It would have been maybe nice to wait for the Pipe, but they do have Shapeshift up, they have Black Hole up, so they want to seek some sort of fight, and they used the Ignis Fatuus here, didn't get too much out of that. So now they run into here again and goes for the Kunkka, and the reason you go for the Kunkka is because the Kunkka is the one that kills your minions. As long as Kunkka is dead, your minions have a free reign here. So they get that Kunkka kill, he goes for the Zeus kill, and now that Void Spirit also of course very low, we're going to try to go for that. And you want to stay here on top of the Enchantress so she doesn't do too much damage with her impetus. But he sees that this is not a good fight, so he actually TPs out. And I think that last hit was without impetus from the Enchantress. I'm not sure if they could have gotten that kill, but definitely no one a bit lucky that he managed to escape here. Lycan is being engaged here and uses ultimate immediately just to be able to stay alive, and he just hit whatever he can here and then get out. But of course he stays nearby so that his allies still get his auras from the Pipe and the AC, and also his units of course get his auras. And now with the enemy in full retreat, he can go back in again. Unfortunately his ultimate of course is gone, but he can still chase here. It's because this is a good fight. If the fight were not going well, he would just get out and start farming here. If it's going well, they can get these extra kills, And of course, without the ultimate, you still provide plenty of DPS. It's just difficult to actually reach anyone because you just get kited all day. But if the team provides enough disables, you can definitely still contribute here. And they find Enchantress here, chase her down, and now it's up to the high ground to see if they can take an objective here. Of course, this is a much more valuable objective than these towers. Pushing these towers is not very important. They don't really control much of the map, so it would be a huge waste to go for that. So they're just going for the high ground, and they don't really get too much here. They get 50% damage here on that building, but now with a nice BKB black hole onto that slug. They think they can fight here, and Lycan dives in really deeply, but with none of his summons up anymore, or most of his summons dead, he actually takes too long to kill that Zeus, and he gets punished for that dive. So after that failed dive, no one realizes definitely needs a BKB, and that's an item that you basically almost always go for at some stage in the game. And there's a lot of control in the enemy lineup, so BKB is quite helpful. The problem with BKB, of course, is that it does protect the minions, so it only allows your main hero to actually attack freely. Your creeps can still be controlled, so that is one downside of the item, but in general it's still great. And if you have this Necro Archers up, it's very valuable actually to have an extra control group for the Archers so they can quickly select it to cast your Purge. And that's something you can just do once, and then it's the game is always going to remember that your Archer is always in that control group. So with most of the enemy team dead, they can easily push those towers, but of course you have to respect the glyph. With the multi-shot, they can easily kill your minions. So you have to move back here, wait it out, and now they're up in the high ground again. And Lycan is not that great at pushing high ground when the enemy is alive, because they can just kill his creeps. But if the enemy are dead, with all these creeps, you just do so much tower damage. You just melt through those towers. Also, of course, having Enigma helps a lot. Both the Eidolons from Enigma and the Lycan Wolves have normal damage, so they do a lot of damage in its buildings. So that's really, really strong. And with those two lanes gone now, it's going to be difficult for the enemy to come back. There's a nice BKB on the Slug. And as Enigma, it's important to know when you just have to catch that one core with your black hole. That simplifies the game a lot. And here in this game, it's the Slug that's the problem. So he finds the Slug and kills him. And now they're 2 lanes down and 18k down. And from here on out, it's going to be an easy game for the Dire. So if you like this game, please share it with your friends. And subscribe to this channel and hit the bell if you haven't already. And before you go, take a look at these other great Lycan games. I've covered Lycan in the off lane and in the safe lane. And Obelisk willing, I'll see you there.